The distress call left the Lethari Council in silence. They sat around their long table, their delicate hands trembling as the message repeated again and again. Their world had always been calm, peaceful, focused on learning and building. They had grown up believing conflict was something ancient and unlikely to return. But the warning signals coming from their outer settlements showed how wrong they had been. Energy readings, missing patrols, faint emergency broadcasts, and then nothing. Every day the unknown threat pushed closer, taking more ground, leaving fear behind. The Lethari were not a warlike people. They had technology, yes, but their bodies were fragile, and not made for harsh environments or prolonged strain. For generations, they had depended on diplomacy and scientific progress. Their ships were built for exploration, not battle. Their citizens had never been trained to fight. That was why the first days of the crisis felt like watching a slow storm approach without any shelter to run to. The Council had sent messages to every nearby star nation. Some replied politely, but declined to get involved. Some pretended they never received anything at all. A few offered words of sympathy, but nothing more. Many feared the unknown attackers. Others simply valued their own safety too much. The Lethari did not blame them. They understood that no one wanted to risk their people. But understanding did not help them survive. When the last neighboring empire quietly suggested evacuation, the Council knew what that meant. It meant surrendering their worlds, their history, and their way of life. For a civilization proud of its libraries, art, and peaceful ways, the idea of abandoning everything felt like losing their identity. Still, they debated late into the night, searching for any remaining hope. Then an officer in the communication hall ran into the chamber, holding a tablet with both hands as if it were burning. His voice shook as he said a reply had arrived. A real reply. Not a rejection. Not a delay. A simple message that said, "We received your call. We are preparing assistance." The chamber filled with whispers. Someone asked which empire had responded. Someone else wondered if it was a trap. But when the officer slowly said the name of the sender, the entire room froze. The reply came from Earth. That single word changed the air in the chamber. The Lethari had heard stories about humans for years. Not all were flattering. In most galactic records, Earth was labeled a death world, a place filled with harsh environments, unpredictable climates, dangerous wildlife, and conditions that would overwhelm most species. According to common belief, any creature that evolved there had to be unusually resilient just to survive. Some reports said humans healed faster than they should. Others said they adapted to extreme situations with impossible speed. A few even claimed humans had a strange talent for staying calm in chaos. But there were also darker stories tales of their determination, their stubbornness, and how they refused to quit even when logic suggested they should. To the Lethari, humans sounded like a myth, something powerful and distant, like a storm given shape. The Council exchanged uneasy glances. They were grateful for the help, but fear mixed with their hope. Humans were unpredictable. They were rumored to be loud, emotional, and willing to take risks that no sensible species would take. But they were also known for something else, something the Lethari desperately needed. They showed up when others did not. In the following days, the Lethari prepared for the human arrival. Engineers rushed to clear landing areas. Technicians worked to translate older communication files about human technology. Citizens gathered in public spaces, asking for updates. Many were nervous. Some worried the humans might take control or demand something in return. Others simply wondered what humans really looked like up close. Beyond the pictures they had seen, a group of educators even held small classes explaining human customs, so citizens would not accidentally offend their guests. They practiced human gestures like nodding and handshakes, even though their hands were much more delicate. Every small detail mattered, because no one knew how humans behaved during crisis. And yet, beneath all the worry, there was a quiet sense of relief. For the first time since the trouble began, the Lethari felt like they were not alone. As news spread, so did the mystery. Children asked their parents if humans were giants. Artists sketched what they imagined human soldiers might look like. Some depictions made them appear like towering armored legends, others like calm explorers walking through storms without fear. It did not matter which version was true. All the Lethari cared about was that help was coming. Meanwhile, in the council chamber, the leaders studied the human message over and over. The tone was simple and calm. It did not promise miracles. It did not boast. It just said they would send a team. That modest confidence both comforted and unsettled the council. Even though the message was short, it carried an energy that felt strangely reassuring. It felt like someone knocking on your door saying, "Hold on. We're on our way." And for a people used to being overlooked, that meant everything. As preparations continued, observatories watched the skies. They tracked every faint signal, hoping to see signs of human ships. The day they finally detected them, the entire planet seemed to pause. The ships were smaller than expected. Not a massive fleet. Not a grand armada. Just a handful of vessels, compact and sturdy, built more for function than appearance. At first, some Lethari officials were confused. They whispered among themselves, wondering if such a small force could really make a difference. But when the scans showed the density of the ship's hulls, the power output of their engines, and the efficiency of their systems, the room fell silent again. Human technology was different. It was not pretty. It was not delicate. It was raw power turned into purpose. As the ships descended through the atmosphere, crowds gathered behind protective barriers near the landing zone. They expected dramatic entrances, maybe loud announcements or bright lights. Instead, the human ships landed gently, almost politely. The engines shut down. Silence followed. Then the doors opened, and the first group of humans stepped out. The Lethari watched in awe. Humans were not towering monsters or strange beasts. They were sturdy, steady, grounded. Their movements were confident, but not threatening. Their suits were practical, clearly designed to protect them from unpredictable environments. Their faces were alert, focused, but surprisingly calm. They looked like people who had seen hard situations before and had decided fear was not worth their time. The leading human greeted the Lethari with a simple gesture and a steady voice. He did not speak with the loud confidence many had expected. Instead, he spoke like someone who understood the weight of the moment. He said they were here to help. No dramatic speech. No demands. Just a promise. The Lethari leaders approached slowly, their slender forms trembling slightly. They welcomed the humans and explained the situation, the disappearing settlements, the empty signals, the unknown threat. The humans listened without interrupting. They asked practical questions. They took notes. They examined the readings. Their calmness was almost unsettling. But the more the Lethari watched them, the more they felt something they had not felt in weeks. A quiet confidence began to grow around the humans. It was almost as if they carried it like a field around them. When the humans finally said they understood the danger and would begin planning, the Lethari felt a wave of relief. Not because they expected the humans to fix everything instantly, but because the humans did not look away. They did not hesitate. They did not treat the crisis as hopeless. That night, the Lethari cities lit up brighter than they had in days. People gathered in plazas to talk about the humans they had seen. Some were amazed by how normal they looked. Some were fascinated by their strength and calmness. Some were simply grateful to know someone cared enough to come. For the first time since the trouble started, the Lethari slept with a little more peace. They did not know what the next days would bring. They did not know how strong the enemy truly was. But they knew something important now, something simple yet powerful. They had called for help, and humans had answered. The days following the human arrival felt different for the Lethari. Their cities still carried the weight of fear, but it was no longer the kind of fear that froze people in place. It had shifted into something closer to anticipation. People walked through streets, wondering what the humans were doing, what they were planning, and how strong they really were. The word Deathworlder carried a strange mix of curiosity and respect. And that mix grew stronger with every passing hour. Most Lethari had only heard the term from old reports or stories, told by traders who had spent time near human space. Those stories made humans sound larger than life. They talked about how humans could survive storms that crushed buildings, climb mountains without special equipment, live in deserts where temperatures changed wildly from day to night, and keep going even when their bodies should have slowed down. Some of the tales sounded unbelievable, like humans being able to adapt to new climates in days, or learning new skills faster than expected. Others sounded almost humorous, like humans inventing sports that seemed like controlled chaos. But now the Lethari were watching humans up close, and the myths suddenly felt small compared to reality. The humans were not loud or wild. They were focused, calm, and strangely patient. Even their presence gave off a sense of grounded strength, like they were used to handling tough situations without panic. When they walked through the Lethari halls, they moved with purpose, not arrogance. They examined technology, asked clear questions, and listened carefully to every answer. The Lethari Council invited the human team to the main chamber the morning after their arrival. The chamber was filled with soft lights and smooth silver-colored panels that reflected the gentle glow. It was designed to create a peaceful atmosphere, but the humans seemed unaffected by the careful detailing. They stood together, steady and alert, waiting for the explanation. The Lethari leaders began by showing maps of the planets that had gone dark. They pointed out areas where signals had vanished and explained how their monitoring stations had picked up strange patterns before losing contact. The humans studied everything closely, sometimes leaning in to compare readings or whispering to each other in low voices. They asked about environmental conditions, population density, energy signatures, and old exploration logs. They scanned every detail with a seriousness that made the Lethari feel both safe and uneasy. One Lethari advisor tried to explain how fragile their species was physically, almost apologizing for their inability to defend themselves. The lead human shook his head gently, cutting off the apology without speaking over him. He simply said there was no shame in needing help. The Lethari advisor lowered his eyes, grateful for the reassurance. Outside the chamber, groups of Lethari citizens waited behind security barriers to get a glimpse of the humans whenever they passed. Some whispered excitedly about how tall the humans were. Others pointed out how steady their steps seemed. A few even tried to imitate the way humans walked, though their lighter bodies made the motion look odd. Still, they laughed quietly among themselves, trying to calm their nerves. Seeing humans move through their city made them feel hopeful, almost safe. One of the first things that surprised the Lethari was how humans interacted with their environment. Many species that visited their world always seemed slightly uncomfortable, struggling with the lower gravity or the soft air. But the humans adjusted quickly. They moved around as if they had been there for months. They lifted equipment, climbed steps, checked damage sensors, and made it look effortless. Their ability to adapt was something the Lethari had read about in reports, but seeing it firsthand was different. The human scientists were just as impressive. They spent hours in the research centers, analyzing the strange readings the Lethari had collected. Even when the data was confusing, the humans remained calm. They did not rush. They did not complain. They simply worked. One Lethari researcher noted privately that humans carried a quiet type of determination that felt unusual. It was not loud bravery. It was a slow, steady confidence that they would eventually find a solution. Around the city, Lethari citizens watched the humans with growing respect. They saw human engineers repairing panels the Lethari thought were ruined. They watched human medics assisting in clinics, gently examining Lethari patients who suffered from stress or exhaustion. The medics moved with soft voices and careful hands, showing a surprising amount of empathy for a species known for toughness. Many Lethari spoke about how comforting the human presence felt, like someone strong was standing beside them. Still, the term Deathworlder echoed through every conversation. It was impossible to ignore. The idea that humans survived on a world with extreme conditions made them seem almost superhuman. Children looked at the humans with wide eyes, whispering questions to their parents. Some asked if humans could survive cold planets without suits. Others wanted to know if humans really lifted heavy things as easily as the stories claimed. One child, too curious to hold back, approached a human near the research wing. The Lethari guards panicked, but the human simply knelt down to the child's height and smiled. The child stared at the human's gloved hands, amazed by their size compared to his own. The human offered a small wave and moved aside so the child could continue down the path. The moment spread quickly through the city, calming many who had been nervous about the human's arrival. They were strong, yes, but they were not unkind. In private rooms, the Lethari Council continued discussing what they had learned. They reviewed old files about Earth, adjusting their understanding now that they had met humans in person. They talked about how humans had evolved on a world with unpredictable weather patterns, dangerous wildlife, shifting climates, and limited natural protection. Those conditions had shaped human behavior, making them resilient and adaptable. The Council realized that humans did not seek conflict. They simply prepared for it because their home world required that mindset. The Lethari also noticed how humans bonded easily with their own team members. They worked as a unit, communicated with short signals, and trusted each other without question. Their teamwork seemed almost instinctive, built from countless challenges faced together. That unity impressed the Lethari, who had always relied more on diplomacy than quick group decision-making. Back in the observation towers, Lethari analysts monitored the outer regions, waiting for signs of further danger. Whenever something unusual appeared on their scanners, they immediately sent the information to the humans. Each time, the humans responded with calm guidance. Their quick thinking helped reduce panic among the monitoring teams. The Lethari began to realize that humans were not just tough physically. They had strong minds, too. They could stay steady, even when uncertainty filled the room. As the days passed, the humans prepared to visit one of the outer stations where the signals had recently faded. The Lethari wanted to join them, but the humans insisted that the journey could be risky, and they did not want anyone untrained to be put in danger. Their concern for Lethari safety surprised the Council. They had expected humans to act boldly, maybe even recklessly. But instead, the humans balanced bravery with caution. They made plans, tested equipment, checked every detail before departure. The Lethari saw this and realized something important. Humans were not fearless because they ignored danger. They were fearless because they faced it fully prepared. Before leaving, the human team walked through the city square. Many Lethari gathered quietly at the edges, watching them with mixed emotions. Some were nervous about what the humans might discover. Others simply wanted to wish them well. The humans offered light waves and small nods to the crowd. They didn't make grand statements or promise victory. They just showed they were ready. As the human ships prepared for launch, the Lethari watched from the viewing decks. They held their breath as the engines lit up. In that moment, The Lethari understood why humans had such a reputation across the galaxy. They acted with certainty, even when the path ahead was unclear. They stepped forward when others stayed behind. They answered calls that other civilizations ignored. When the ships rose into the sky, leaving a gentle trail behind them, a quiet realization spread through the watching crowd. The galaxy remembered humans as Deathworlders, as survivors shaped by a harsh planet. But the Lethari were beginning to understand something deeper. Deathworlders did not come because they enjoyed danger. They came because someone needed help. And that made all the difference. The human ships moved smoothly through the sky as they left the Lethari capital, heading toward the edge of the system where several stations had gone silent. The Lethari watched the ships disappear into the distance, feeling a mix of hope and worry. Even though they trusted the humans more now, the fear of what might be waiting out there still lingered. Losing contact with entire stations was not a small thing. It meant something serious was happening, and no one knew exactly what. Inside the transport ship, the human team sat in their seats, checking their equipment and reviewing the latest scans. Their calmness amazed even the Lethari technicians who watched the launch from the ground. To the humans, this mission wasn't just another task. It was an answer to a call from people who needed help. And once humans decided to help, they followed through with full focus. As the ship headed outward, the team looked at the displays showing the fading glow of the Lethari homeworld behind them. The lead human leaned forward slightly, studying the environment readings. There was a quiet sense of readiness among them. No shouting, no nervous pacing. They understood the risks, but they didn't let fear guide their actions. It was a mindset the Lethari had already started admiring. Hours later, the ship approached the first silent station. It floated in orbit above a dusty blue planet, looking peaceful from a distance. But the moment the scans came in, the atmosphere inside the ship shifted. Something was wrong. Energy levels were lower than they should be. The station wasn't damaged, but it felt empty, like a place that had been abandoned in a hurry. The humans exchanged brief looks. They didn't panic. They didn't jump to conclusions. Instead, they did what humans always seem to do: prepare. They checked their suits again, tightened straps, and organized their gear. Even with the unknown ahead of them, their movements stayed steady. That quiet bravery was the kind of thing that made the Lethari call them remarkable. When the humans docked with the station, the entrance slid open with a soft metallic sound. The lights inside flickered faintly. The hallways were silent. The humans stepped in with slow, controlled movements, scanning every corner with handheld devices. Their boots made soft echoes as they walked, the only sound in the quiet structure. Even without speaking much, the team worked in perfect coordination. One checked the power grid, while another examined the communication systems. A third scanned for life signs. Their training showed in every small action. They didn't rush, but they didn't hesitate either. They understood that even small mistakes could cause trouble. As they moved deeper, they found signs of quick evacuation: scattered tools, half-finished reports, chairs pushed away from desks. It looked like the station crew had left suddenly. Nothing was broken or damaged. No signs of struggle. Just absence. The humans stopped in the middle of a wide hallway, quietly absorbing the scene. They didn't speak loudly or dramatize the situation. They simply acknowledged the truth. Something had caused the crew to leave fast. One team member knelt beside a dropped tablet, lifting it carefully. The last recorded message was short and unclear, filled with static. The audio mentioned shadows on the horizon and something moving in orbital readings before cutting out. The humans exchanged thoughtful glances. Even without showing fear, they understood the seriousness. Back on the ship, they gathered the data and sent a summary to the Lethari Council. The council listened carefully, their faces filled with worry. But the humans reassured them that they would keep investigating. Their steady voices carried a sense of confidence that calmed the council's nerves. The humans then headed to the second silence station, which orbited a colder world with a pale surface. As they approached, they noticed something different immediately. Unlike the first station, this one had faint signs of activity. Some lights were still on, and weak energy pulses came from the core. But the communication array wasn't transmitting. The humans prepared for entry, adjusting their equipment once again with careful hands. Inside the second station, the atmosphere felt uneasy. The lights flickered in slow rhythms, and soft hums echoed through the halls. The humans moved quietly, scanning every area they passed. This station, too, showed signs of quick evacuation, but there were traces that someone had tried to restore systems before leaving. Tools were placed neatly near a panel. A console was rebooting when the power finally failed. It looked like the crew had tried to hold on longer. As the humans walked through the control room, one of them paused near a large viewport looking out into space. Far beyond the dark sky, a faint shape moved slowly. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't debris. It was something distant, drifting silently, almost blending into the background of stars. The humans stared at it for a long moment before calling the others over. They studied the readings together. The shape didn't match any known ship or natural object recorded in Lethari files. Its movement was slow and smooth, almost too controlled to be random. Whatever it wasn't part of the stations or their equipment. It had been watching or passing by when the crew disappeared. The humans didn't panic. Instead, they marked the coordinates and returned to the ship to prepare for deeper investigation. Before leaving, they restored backup power to the station so the Lethari would have something to study later. It was a small gesture, but the Lethari appreciated it deeply. They saw how humans helped without needing praise. When the humans reported their findings back to the Lethari Council, the reaction was immediate. Worry spread through the chamber, but so did trust. The council listened to the humans carefully, asking questions in gentle voices. The humans answered with calm explanations, avoiding dramatic words. They didn't make the situation sound hopeless. They just described what they had seen and what they believed the next step should be. The Lethari felt something new growing inside them: faith. Not blind faith, but the kind that comes when you see someone working with skill, courage, and quiet determination. They realized that even when the unknown shape drifted in the dark, the humans didn't lose focus. They didn't step back. They stepped closer. Later, that same day, the humans prepared to reach the third silent station, which orbited near a gas giant with swirling colors. This station was the largest of the three and had been the first one to send distress signals before falling silent. The humans expected more clues there. They loaded more supplies, tested their suits twice, and checked every tool in their kits. Even though the Lethari couldn't see everything happening inside the human ship, they could feel the seriousness through the regular updates. The third station came into view slowly, its silhouette reflecting the red and gold hues of the gas giant below. At first glance, it looked untouched. But as the ship moved closer, the humans noticed faint markings on the outer hull. They didn't look like scratches or damage. They looked more like impressions, as if something had passed near the station, disturbing the surface dot inside. The station was quiet, just like the others. But the humans found something different here: a set of emergency lights blinking in a pattern. Someone had activated a silent alarm before leaving. It was a sign of caution, not danger. The humans followed the path deeper, moving steadily through the wide hallways. In one room, they found a small projector that had been left running on minimal power. It displayed blurry recordings of space outside the station. The recordings showed distant shapes, shadows, drifting near the outer edge of the system. They didn't approach. They didn't attack. They simply appeared, lingered, and disappeared again. That quiet behavior explained the fear the crew must have felt. It's hard to fight something you cannot understand. The humans studied every second of the footage. They slowed it down, enhanced the clarity, and compared it with Letheri's star maps. It wasn't enough to give answers, but it was enough to confirm one thing. Whatever was moving out there wasn't part of nature. And it wasn't something the Letheri could handle alone. When the humans finished gathering all the data from the third station, they returned to their ship with a clear plan forming among them. They didn't speak loudly, but there was a sense of agreement in the way they moved. They knew they were dealing with something unusual, but they also knew they wouldn't back away as they prepared to return to the Lothario world to report everything in detail. The lead human stood near the window, looking at the distant stars. He didn't say much, but his steady expression said enough. Humans didn't turn away from uncertainty. They walked toward it, and for the first time in a long time, the Lethari were starting to believe they might not face the darkness alone. The human woke up earlier than usual, still feeling the weight of everything that had happened in the alien palace over the last few days. Even though he tried to stay calm, he could feel tension sitting quietly in the back of his mind, like a whisper he could not ignore. He had come here by accident, survived situations he never expected, protected people he had never met before, and somehow he had become an important figure among beings from another world. It was strange, confusing, and sometimes even overwhelming. But it was also something he could not walk away from. Not now when everyone depended on him more than ever. As he sat on the edge of the bed, he noticed how unusually quiet the palace corridors sounded. Normally, there were distant footsteps, soft humming echoes, the gentle buzz of alien machinery, and the soft greetings from the palace guards. Today the silence was thick, almost heavy, like the sky before a big storm. He took a slow breath and stood up, deciding to find out what had changed. When he stepped outside his room, he found one of the palace attendants waiting for him. The attendant, tall and calm as always, looked more worried than usual. The human noticed the small twitch of the attendant's hands. Something he had learned was a sign of nervousness among their species. Before he could ask anything, the attendant bowed slightly. "You are asked to come to the main hall," the attendant said in a soft voice. The human nodded and followed, walking through the long curved corridors filled with glowing patterns and soft blue lights. Even after all this time, the design of the alien palace still amazed him. The walls were smooth as glass, but warm like sunlight-touched stone. The air always felt fresh, almost cleaner than anything he had ever breathed back on Earth. Every detail reminded him he was living far away from everything familiar. When they reached the main hall, he saw a small group gathered near the center. The queen stood there, strong and calm as always, though her eyes revealed a hint of concern. Her daughter stood beside her, and when she saw the human, she gave a small smile filled with relief. It was clear she had been waiting for him. He walked closer, and the queen raised her hand in greeting. Even though she was a powerful leader, she always tried to be respectful toward him, something that still surprised him. She looked at him for a moment, and then explained the situation. During the night, the sensors around the outer borders had detected unusual movement, something large, unidentified, and approaching slowly. The queen believed it could be a natural phenomenon, maybe a migrating creature, or a strange shift in energy. But she could not ignore the possibility that it could be something else, something that might bring trouble. The human listened carefully, trying to stay collected. He had seen enough strange and unexpected things in this world to know that danger did not always announce itself clearly. Even harmless things here could be bigger, stronger, or more unpredictable than anything he had known before. The queen asked if he was willing to accompany a small team to check what the sensors had detected. She assured him they would not engage in anything risky, and their only goal was to observe and report back. Still, she wanted him there. She trusted his judgment. She valued the calm way he reacted to danger, the way he helped people feel safe just by being present. It still felt strange to him, but he understood why she asked. He agreed without hesitation. Soon, he found himself walking toward the transport area with the princess by his side. She kept glancing at him, as if making sure he was truly all right. He noticed it and gave a small smile. She relaxed a little, though her worry didn't disappear. When they reached the transport station, a soft humming sound filled the room. The sleek platform slowly descended, carrying a floating vehicle shaped like a smooth silver shell. It opened gently when they approached, revealing seats and glowing panels inside. Everything looked advanced yet simple, something he admired about alien technology. The princess sat beside him, and the vehicle lifted into the air, gliding silently out of the palace and into the open sky. The world below spread wide, full of forests that glowed with faint colors and rivers that shone under the early light. He watched the scenery with quiet amazement, as he always did. No matter how many times he traveled across this land, it never felt ordinary. After several minutes, the vehicle slowed near a wide valley. The air shimmered slightly, a sign that something unusual was present. The team landed and stepped out carefully, scanning the area with small devices that emitted soft, pulsing lights. The human walked a little further ahead, guided by instinct. He had no special tools, no special abilities, but sometimes his natural senses picked up things others overlooked. He walked slowly, listening to every small noise, noticing every shift in the ground. Then he saw it. A massive shape curled near the edge of the valley, not hostile, but clearly in distress. It looked like a gentle giant, a creature with smooth scales that reflected the colors of the sky. Its breathing was labored, and its wing was caught under a fallen piece of crystal-like rock. It wasn't a threat at all. It was simply trapped. The team behind him froze, unsure whether to move forward. The creature was large enough to cause damage if frightened, even by accident. But the human did not step back. Instead, he moved slowly and calmly, keeping his hands visible, showing he meant no harm. The princess whispered for him to be careful, but she didn't stop him. She knew how he worked, how naturally he connected with living beings, even those from another world. The creature turned its head slightly when it heard the human's soft footsteps. Its eyes, wide and bright, reflected confusion and fear. But when the human spoke in a gentle voice, the creature's breathing slowed a little. He continued talking softly, reassuring it, letting it know they were here to help. With the team's assistance, he guided them in lifting the fallen crystal structure. It took time and effort, but eventually the creature's wing was freed. The giant slowly stretched it, testing it, then gave a soft, deep hum, a sign of gratitude. The princess let out a breath she had been holding, clearly relieved. The queen's guards stood still, amazed at how quickly the human had calmed the situation. It was moments like this that reminded them why he had become such an important presence in their world. The creature slowly stood up, towering over everyone, then lowered its head gently toward the human, almost like a bow. It stepped back and lifted itself into the air, gliding smoothly across the sky until it disappeared into the distance. The valley became quiet again. The team stood there for a long moment, taking in what had just happened. The princess walked closer to him, her expression soft and full of admiration. She didn't say anything at first. She simply looked at him with the kind of respect that came from witnessing something genuine. When they finally returned to the palace, the queen listened to the full report. As she heard how he had helped the creature, her expression warmed. She stepped closer to him and told him something she rarely said out loud. You have a way of bringing calm where others bring fear. Our world is better with you in it. For a moment, he didn't know how to respond. He had been treated as important before, but never like this, never as someone who made things better simply by being present. He stood there quietly, unsure how to express the feeling growing in his chest. The princess stood near him, watching the queen, then watching him, as if understanding the emotion he couldn't put into words. The day slowly shifted into evening. Soft lights filled the palace halls, and gentle music floated through the air. The princess invited him to walk with her through the gardens before nightfall. He agreed, and together they walked along glowing paths surrounded by flowers that opened only when touched by warm air. Their conversation flowed naturally, simple and human. They talked about the day, the strange creature, the silence in the morning, and the future they were unsure of. Yet even with uncertainty, there was peace in their steps. When they finally paused near a quiet pool, he looked at his reflection next to hers. He had changed. Not physically, but in the way he carried himself, in the way he understood this world. He wasn't just a visitor anymore. He was part of something larger, something he never expected, and the night settled around them gently. As if agreeing with everything his heart already knew, the new day began slowly inside the alien palace, as if the entire place was taking a quiet breath after everything that had happened. The human woke up feeling a strange mixture of calm and uncertainty. He had helped save a creature the previous day, gained the trust of the queen even more, and somehow grown closer to the princess. But something inside him still felt unsettled, like there was more to come. Something waiting just beyond the horizon. He pushed himself out of bed and stepped into the hallway, expecting the usual peaceful murmurs of palace life. But instead, the halls were strangely busy today. Attendants moved quickly, guards stood more alert than usual, and the soft lights in the corridor had shifted into a brighter shade, a color he had learned meant important activity. He frowned slightly, wondering what had changed so suddenly. One of the attendants hurried toward him and stopped, breathing a little faster than normal. "You are requested in the Queen's chamber," the attendant said. "It is urgent." He nodded. Whenever the Queen summoned him with urgency, it meant something serious was happening. He followed the attendant through long curved halls, past glowing symbols on the walls, and toward a large set of doors guarded by tall palace protectors. The guard stepped aside as he approached, allowing him to enter. The Queen stood at the center of the room, her posture straight, but her expression thoughtful. The princess was beside her, and when she saw him, she gave a small but warm smile. It eased his worries a little. The Queen didn't waste any time. "We received a message from one of the outer colonies," she said. "There was a sudden disturbance in one of the energy zones last night. A brief flash, then silence. They want someone they trust to visit and find out what happened." The human listened carefully. "Do you think it's dangerous?" he asked. "We don't know," the Queen replied. "It could be a natural shift, or it could be something caused by an outside force. The colony is safe for now, but they are afraid. I want you to go there with a small team. Your presence calms people. They listen to you. You have a way of making situations steady." The princess added softly, "They trust him even before meeting him." The human felt a strange mix of pressure and responsibility. He had never asked for this role, but somehow he had become someone these beings relied on. Still, he nodded. "I'll go." The Queen's expression softened, and she placed a gentle hand over her chest, a gesture of respect. "Thank you." Soon he found himself preparing for another journey. The princess insisted on going with him, though she didn't say why. He could see it in her eyes. She didn't want him leaving alone, not after everything they had been through together. And honestly, he felt relieved she would be by his side. The transport platform was already waiting for them. The same smooth, silver-like vehicle descended and opened for the team. The human and the princess stepped inside first, followed by 2 guards and a technician who operated the scanning tools. The vehicle lifted off with a soft hum, gliding into the open sky. This time, the world below looked different. The colors were sharp, almost restless. Even the clouds seemed to move with unusual speed. The human sensed something in the air, something he couldn't explain, but he trusted his instincts. They were usually right. The princess leaned closer and whispered, "You seem quiet." "Just thinking," he replied. "About the colony?" "About everything." She nodded softly. "This place has changed you, but not in a bad way." He looked out the window again, unsure how to respond. She was right, though. He wasn't the same person who had arrived here by accident weeks ago. He had seen danger, peace, strange beauty, unexpected friendship, things that reshaped him slowly. Quietly, the vehicle finally descended near a smaller settlement, surrounded by shimmering fields. The moment they landed, a group of colony workers rushed forward. Their expressions showed clear relief when they recognized the human. It was strange, but touching. He wasn't even one of their species. Yet they looked at him as if he were someone they had known forever. One of the workers stepped forward. "We're grateful you came," they said carefully. The disturbance scared everyone. Our sensors shut down for a moment, and we felt a sudden shake in the ground. The human asked to see the location. The workers guided them to the edge of a field where a faint circular mark lay on the ground. It looked like something had landed or emerged briefly, then vanished. The scanners began to hum as the technician swept the area. The princess stayed close to the human, observing the ground with sharp eyes. "It doesn't look natural," she whispered. He crouched down and touched the soil. It felt warm, too warm for the morning temperature. Then something caught his attention. In the dirt, half buried, was a small metallic shard. He brushed it open. The shard had strange patterns etched into it, patterns he had never seen before in the palace or among the queen's people. He held it up. "Do you recognize this?" The princess shook her head. "No, it's not ours." That answer made the workers nervous. The guards exchanged uncertain looks. The technician scanned the shard, and the device emitted a sharp tone and alert. "This material is foreign," the technician said. "It doesn't match anything on record." The human looked at the princess. She met his gaze, and even without words, they both understood this wasn't a simple disturbance. It was something new, something from outside their world, or outside their knowledge. But before fear could spread through the colony, he stood up and spoke calmly to the workers. "Whatever this is, we'll find out. You're not alone. Nothing is going to happen without warning." His steady voice worked. The workers relaxed a little. The princess placed her hand gently on his arm, a quiet sign of support. Even the guards seemed more focused after hearing him speak. They spent several more hours searching the area. The scanners detected faint traces of energy, but nothing dangerous. The ground around the circle cooled down slowly. The workers felt safe again, though still uneasy. When the team finally prepared to head back, the colony leader approached the human and thanked him personally. "You make people feel safe," they said. "Your presence is stronger than any weapon we could use." The human didn't know what to say. He had never been praised like that, not even back on Earth. He simply nodded, hoping it was enough. The return flight was quiet at first. The princess kept glancing at him, as if trying to figure out what he was thinking. Eventually, she spoke. "Are you worried about the shard?" "Yes, me too." He looked at her. "But I don't want the queen or the colony to panic. Not until we understand what it means." She nodded gently. "You're right." When they reached the palace, the queen was already waiting for them. He handed her the metallic shard, and her eyes narrowed slightly as she examined the strange patterns. She didn't show fear, but she did show concern. She thanked him for keeping the colony calm and sent the shard to the analysis center. Later that evening, the human walked alone through the palace gardens. The sky above him shimmered with faint streaks of light, like falling stars moving in slow motion. But his thoughts felt heavier than the night air. He didn't know who the shard belonged to. He didn't know if it signaled danger or discovery. But he felt something shifting around him, something that would soon pull him deeper into this world than ever before. He heard footsteps behind him. When he turned, the princess stood there, her expression soft but serious. "I thought I'd find you here," she said. "Hard to sleep," he replied. She stepped closer, keeping her voice low. "No matter what happens, you won't face it alone." He breathed out slowly. "I know." They walked together in silence for a while, listening to the gentle hum of the glowing plants and the soft breeze moving through the garden. Even with uncertainty growing in the world around them, this moment felt peaceful, like a quiet promise that no matter how complicated things became, they would stand together. And somewhere deep inside the palace, hidden behind guarded doors, the analysis machines scanned the strange metallic shard again and again, trying to read the message etched into it, a message that would soon change everything. But for now, under the calm night sky, the human and the princess walked side by side, unaware of how close the next turning point already was. The next morning began with a strange stillness inside the palace. It wasn't the calm kind of silence. It felt heavier, like the world was holding its breath. The human woke with that same uneasy feeling he had sensed the day before, only now it was stronger. Something was happening. Something important. He could feel it before anyone even said a word. He stepped into the hallway and noticed right away that the energy of the place had shifted. Guards stood closer to the walls, their movements tight and focused. Attendants walked quickly, whispering to one another. The soft lights in the palace changed tone again, glowing with a faint warning shade. He didn't know the full meaning of every color yet, but this one felt like the world was saying, "Pay attention." Before he could even take 10 steps, a guard approached him. "The Queen asks for you," the guard said quietly. "She wants you in the analysis chamber." He didn't waste any time. As he walked through the long halls, the feeling of tension grew. He passed more guards than usual, and many of them looked at him with a kind of silent expectation, almost as if they believed he would have the answers before anyone else. He wasn't sure how he had become this important to them, but he didn't want to let anyone down. When he reached the chamber, the doors opened automatically. Inside, the Queen stood near a large glowing table. The princess was beside her, eyes fixed on the strange metallic shard they had brought back from the colony. Several analysts worked at different stations, their faces serious. The Queen turned toward him. "We finished the first round of tests," she said. "This shard is not from any world we know. It carries a signature we have never seen. It is old but not ancient, and it arrived through some kind of breach." "A breach?" He repeated. "Yes," the Queen replied. "Something opened for a moment and then closed again. Something that wasn't natural." He took a slow breath. "So it wasn't an accident?" "No," the Queen said with certainty. "Someone sent it, or left it, or lost it." The princess stepped closer to him, her voice low. "We don't know if it's danger or a message." He looked at the shard on the table. Its surface caught the light like moving water. Strange patterns ran across it, patterns that felt almost alive. He didn't understand them, but something about the design made him think this was only the beginning. He asked, "Have you told the colony?" "Not yet," the Queen answered. "We don't want fear to spread. Not until we understand what it means." He nodded. It made sense. Panic could destroy a community faster than any enemy. One of the analysts approached the Queen and handed her a small device. She pressed it, and a projection of the shard appeared above the table, enlarged and rotating slowly. New symbols glowed along its edges. The analyst spoke in a steady tone. We believe the patterns may be a form of encoded message. Not language exactly, but some kind of directional or structural data. Maybe coordinates. The human felt the air shift. Coordinates meant something, or someone might be trying to point them somewhere. The Queen said, "If this is a message, we need to know what it is saying. But we cannot send a full team yet. Not until we know the risk." The princess didn't hesitate. "He should go," she said softly. Looking at the human dot, the room went quiet. The Queen stared at her daughter with a mix of surprise and concern. "You believe he should investigate alone?" "Not alone," the princess said quickly. "With me and a small team. But yes, wherever this leads, he should be the one to begin." He felt all eyes turn toward him. The weight of the moment pressed on his chest, but in a strange way, he wasn't afraid. He had been through danger with these people. He had seen their hopes, their fears, and their trust in him. He wasn't here by accident anymore. He was part of this world now. He met the Queen's gaze. "I'll go," he said. The Queen's shoulders lowered ever so slightly, a sign of acceptance and worry blending together. "Very well," she said. "Prepare for departure." It didn't take long for the next journey to begin. The transport they used this time was different from the usual one. It was heavier, equipped with stronger shields and powerful scanning tools. Whatever they were heading into, the Queen wasn't taking chances. The princess stayed at his side as the crew loaded supplies onto the craft. Her expression was calm, but he could see the tension behind her eyes. She wasn't afraid for herself. She was afraid for him. Before they boarded, the Queen placed a hand on his arm. It was the first time she had ever touched him directly. Her voice was quiet, almost fragile. "Come back safely," she said. "You are important to my people, and to my daughter." Her words struck deeper than she knew. He nodded once. "I will." The craft lifted off with a deep hum. The view outside blurred as they crossed through the skies, heading toward a distant region the coordinates pointed to. It was a place the princess had never visited, and even the crew looked uneasy as they approached it on their maps. Hours passed, filled with quiet conversation, soft observations, and long stretches of silence. The human felt strangely calm. Whatever they found, he would face it with the princess and the team beside.